What's up everyone? Welcome back to another World of Warcraft Season of Discovery PvP guide. I'm Severingo, and this week we will be talking specifically about Feral Druids. Feral Druids unfortunately seem to be looked at as the red-headed stepchild of the current PvP Druid community, in the sense that most Druids who PvP in Season of Discovery are running some sort of balanced Star Surge build or a flag carrying build. And fully spec'd Ferals are only getting brought to pre-mades with a very melee-heavy comp, or Wild Strike specifically. With that being said, I wanted to create a video showcasing the capabilities of a Druid that goes full one-trick pony and utilizes things like Mangle, Powershifting, and Omen of Clarity procs to pump out some serious damage that rivals the biggest and baddest damage dealers of this phase. I'll be organizing this video in a similar style as my previous flag carrying guide. So first up, we'll start by talking about talent choices. After that, we can get into gear and rune options. Then we can discuss some consumables and buffs that I would recommend to put you ahead of your competition. And finally, I'll jump into a game and we can talk about strategy and show you the capabilities of what this spec has to offer. Let's jump right into it. First, let's talk about talents. The thing about talents at this level are all classes and all specs have some major trade-offs because we just don't have enough talent points to play around with. I'm going to be talking about two specs specifically, but I will show you that both of them do have some major drawbacks, especially in the Feral tree. The first set of talents that we'll discuss today will be your run-of-the-mill PvE Feral Druid spec, which is the king of burst damage, but it loses a lot of utility. The funny thing about the spec is it doesn't have a single talent point in the Feral combat tree. That's because you get things like natural weapons, increasing the damage you deal with all physical attacks by 10%, and Omen of Clarity, which allows you to have a chance on melee hit to proc a buff onto yourself that reduces the cost of the next healing or damaging ability that you'd like to use. So this allows you to use your abilities like Mangle or Shred free of charge and then follow it up immediately with another Mangle or Shred. The beauty of this is that as a Feral Druid, you also have 5 out of 5 points in Furor, allowing you to power shift and replenish your energy or rage bar immediately with 40 energy or 10 rage respectively, as long as you have mana to do so. So you don't have to wait for the replenishing like a rogue would. You can immediately recast your form and have enough energy to then cast yet another Mangle or Shred. This is why when you're a Feral Druid, you can burst things down incredibly quickly. The second spec that I will recommend will be that of the Jack of all trades, Master of none flag carrying build that I recommended in my previous video. That is 1 point in the balance tree in Nature's Grasp, 13 in the Feral tree, and then 2 in the Resto tree with Furor. This one allows you to, utilizing something like Item Rack, very quickly swap out gear and rune sets, allowing you to do a heck of a lot more than the previous talent choice, which you'd be losing out on a good amount of burst with Omen of Clarity and natural weapons, and also you're gambling in the sense that you can't always get the energy or rage when power shifting, but it does allow you to do things like flag carry and not just be a pure physical damage wrecking ball that requires a healer. And if you die and you're not going 30% faster without your buff, you're not going to be having as much fun. One other spec that I can discuss right now is a bit of an odd one, but I would go 12 into Feral combat and then 4 into the Resto tree with Furor. This allows you an 80% chance to power shift with that additional 40 energy or 10 rage, which is most of the time 4 out of 5. And then you still get Feline Swiftness, Feral Instinct, Brutal Impact, and Ferocity. You're going to be going faster, but you also can power shift. What you are giving up is Feral Charge and Nature's Grasp, and you're obviously not getting things like natural weapons or Omen of Clarity, so your damage is going to be less, but it also works if you want to just be a fast damage dealer. In terms of gear, you're going to want a mix of stamina, strength, agility, and intellect for the most part. Stamina just makes you tankier with more health. Strength adds to your attack power, making your melee hits hit or more consistent, higher damage. Agility is very good for druids in the sense that it gives you armor, crit chance, dodge chance, as well as attack power. So it's a 4 for the price of 1. It unfortunately isn't quite as good yet because we don't have access to things like 2 out of 2 Blood Frenzy, which gives you 100% chance upon a critical strike in cat form to add a combo point to your target. But that's something that we'll discuss at phase 2 when we have a lot more talent points to allocate. Other pieces that I think are very important are things like the tier set from BFD, They are just incredibly well statted. They, upon getting 3, will give you a 1% extra chance to hit. You will be missing a lot at this level because of the lack of hit chance, so that's always something nice to have. Plus the craftable leather gloves I would recommend making. For me, I went tailoring because I liked having the 30% damage reduction for flag carrying, but if I were to do it for a strictly Feral Druid, I would have gone 3-set Twilight Slayer foot pads, cowl and tunic, and then gone for the leather working craftable epic gloves. In terms of things like bracers and cloak, I went for Of the Eagle level 20 BOEs because I just wanted a little bit extra intellect. I threw some extra intellect wherever I could for enchants, so on my two-handed weapon, on my bracers, and then the Sergeant's Cloak, which you get from being rank 3. Allows you to have 4 to all of your stats, which is just another incredible statted piece. And then I just bought very cheap on the auction house Of the Eagle leather shoulder. So going down the list, you're just trying to have a majority of strength and agility, a bit of stamina, and a bit of intellect. I swap out my pieces dependent upon the situation. So if I want a little bit more damage reduction, I'll throw on the thing with some more armor and some strength on it. I want to do some more damage, I'll throw on agility, and just kind of play around with the different options. For me, I like swapping out, having all the different runes on all of the different sets that I have, and then I just swap those out as I play for a very fluid, seamless playstyle. In terms of rune choice, you're going to want to run Wild Strikes, Mangle, and Savage Roar if you want to go full damage, just like you would in PvE. What I will recommend is having at least 2 or 3 pieces of chest, gloves, and legs that you can swap interchangeably dependent upon the situation. If you're fighting something like a warrior, you're not going to need to use something like Skull Bash. But if you're fighting a priest or you're fighting anything that is going to get a cast off, it would probably be better to run something like Skull Bash because that allows you to interrupt their cast while still pumping out damage with Mangle and Wild Strikes. If you are trying to survive a little bit more, you don't have a healer that is pocket healing you or whatever it may be, maybe you swap out for Survival of the Fittest on the chest so that you can jump into bear form if you are getting whomped. And lo and behold, you have a 48.4% damage reduction plus the extra 20% from Survival of the Fittest. And if you're in Warsong Gold, you can also toss the Resilient Leather Mask on, and that's an additional 5%. We won't go into the fact that you also take 20% less damage in Warsong anyway, which was just found out on the forums, but there's a lot more survivability if you do run Survival of the Fittest. So it's a matter of just utilizing an add-on known as Item Rack to just have all of your slots here, and as you need them for different scenarios, you swap them out. And so I want to utilize Feline Swiftness and spam Sunfire while I kite somebody to oblivion. I'm going to use Sunfire, and maybe I'll use Skull Bash, just in case I need to gap close or interrupt a spell. There's just a lot you can do in terms of gear, but this is a Feral only video, so I am just going to discuss what you would use if you wanted to go fully Feral. Some additional pieces you can get for Pre-BIS would be things like the Deviate Scale Belt, the Leggings of the Fang, which you can solo as a druid as well, Feet of the Links, and then the Warsong Honored neck and ring. In terms of weapons, if you haven't gotten the BFD Fist of the Wild yet, you can solo Smite for his hammer, which has a good amount of strength and agi on it, and then you can solo Van Cleef for either his chest that he drops or the Tunic of Westfall if you're Alliance. As a Night Elf, you can skip literally every single boss up to Smite and Van Cleef, which makes it incredibly quick and easy. If you prefer to do things alone as opposed to in a group, all you have to do is Shadowmeld the second that you click the door open, and then you wait for Prowl to come off cooldown. You can click this macro that immediately shifts you into Cat and casts Prowl, and then it won't unstealth you if you click it multiple times. And that allows you to skip every boss super easily. There's a bunch of guides showing how to skip Deadmines or solo Deadmines, but nothing ever mentioned that. They always had you kill one of the bosses or do a death run, which wastes a lot of time, so I thought I'd throw this in there. I hope that wasn't too haphazard. There are plenty of BIS lists and pre-BIS lists out there. I just wanted to give you a general outline or idea of what you should be looking for and what the stats meant, and then allow you to take it from there. I want to focus more on the strategy of what you should be doing as a Feral player. With all that being said, let's have a quick conversation about consumables and buffs. If you're running the Feral PvE spec, Boon of the Black Fathom is unfortunately 100% non-negotiable. You need to have as much uptime of this buff as you can, because you're going to be losing out on the 30% increased movement speed that you would have gotten from Feline Swiftness. So the 20% increase from Boon of the Black Fathom plus the array of other benefits that it brings is something that is going to make this spec work or not. You can also be a scuffed flag carrier if you absolutely have to, if you want to run this spec as well. Speaking of speed, Swiftness Potions are incredibly helpful with both of these specs because they allow you to go 50% faster for a 15-second duration. This is super powerful right now, and the fastest thing someone can go is about 40% increased movement speed. So you're going to beat anybody and everybody for that 15 seconds. So utilizing that to either catch up or get away from somebody is going to be really, really helpful for you. Something that you can be using as a druid to maximize your efficiency are macros that use the item and then shift you into whatever form you'd like. So instead of having to click like you saw me do in the overlaid video, all you have to do is hit the macro. Once you pick up the flag or whenever you want to use something, you should be using this for mana pots if you want to power shift and you don't have enough mana to do so. That's in PvE and PvP, and I'll discuss that shortly. But let's say I'm in bear form to not get sapped and I'm trying to grab a flag. If I want to utilize a Swiftness Pot to get out of there, I'm just going to hit that, and all of a sudden, I'm right back in bear form, but I'm moving at 50% increased movement speed. So definitely something that you guys should utilize in order to really maximize your gameplay. Speaking of mana pots, this will become a little bit more relevant next phase when mana potions aren't so exorbitantly expensive and we have access to the higher level, more effective ones. But this macro allows you to utilize the mana potion and then immediately shift back into cat form or bear form, depending on your scenario. What's nice about this is if you are guns blazing and you just need a little bit more damage to kill an enemy, then you pop this when you're completely out of gas, and it'll essentially act as a rogue's Thistletea, giving you that extra energy back when you originally wouldn't have it. You can also use it to get out of a immobilize or slow effect if you're rooted and you're completely out of mana at that point as well. Instead of having to wait for the regeneration that is extremely slow, you pop the macro, the mana pot, shift right back into it, and you're out on your merry way. To show you this in action, I'll just deplete my mana bar. And then as you see there, when I clicked on the lesser mana potion macro, it reshifted me while giving me the mana as well. Something I will point out is if you don't have enough mana to reshift into something when you use this macro, you will have to double click the macro. So you can do this very quickly, but it is kind of a unfortunate weird side effect to not having enough originally when you click the button. Last but not least, let's head out into the world and see what this class can do. I'm in no way, shape, or form claiming that this is the best spec, nor am I claiming that Feral is better than any of the other specs, but I've had requests on how to play Feral in PvP, so I wanted to just make a video showcasing its capabilities when you maximize it to its fullest potential. So here we are at the Zoram Strand. I've gone ahead and popped a few things like some Ogre's Strength Elixir, Lesser Agility Elixir, and some Rumsy Rum Black Label for 15 more stamina. This is going to allow us to be a little bit more tanky and have a little bit more damage, but I just don't want to have to go back to Darnassus to get another buff. So for the sake of this video, I just want to show everything off for you guys. Here we have Squillium. Gonna open with Mangle, swap out for Savage Roar. If this spec comes in, didn't. Unfortunately, we don't have dash yet. Didn't even need a kick there. What we can do now is get rid of that, use Shadowmeld to go quicker, and get back into Prowl. Guy's going faster than us, so that's annoying. We're gonna save kick for fear. If you're gonna use Tiger's Fury, just like PvE, try to make it so that you have 100 energy by the time that you're opening. more opening. When you get clear casting procs, that's when you want to try to go for shreds. Obviously, sometimes getting to the back of somebody is not possible, so you may have to just use a mangle. But in this case, I was able to get one, and I almost got soloed by his pet. And there you have it. It might not be the prettiest of specs, but it's very fun to power shift, and you can absolutely be effective if you do want to be a Feral Druid. Hopefully you came out of here having learned something today. If you did, it would mean a lot to me if you threw a like on this video or even subscribe to the channel. It really makes me more motivated to continue making videos when I have positive reinforcement or good feedback. If you have any requests or constructive criticism, feel free to put that in the comments as well. I'm just looking to keep improving and have fun with it. Thanks again for hanging out. I'm Severingo, and I'll see you guys next time.